Imagine waking up in a world where the Balkan Wars never happened, where the Middle East never fractured into a dozen rival states, and where a single empire, ancient, reformed and modernized, rose into the Jet Age with all its territory intact. Today, we're diving into that world. A world where the Ottoman Empire survives past 1918, avoids World War I, reforms at the top, and steps into 20th century as a unified giant. And from 1945 all the way to today, it doesn't collapse, it evolves. If you enjoy alternate history, world building, or imagining how different life could be, you're in the right place. Let's step into the timeline and see what the Ottoman Empire would look like in 2025, if it never fell. Imagine a world where the Ottoman Empire never crumbled. No slow decay, no humiliating treaties, no desperate gamble on the First World War. Instead, in this timeline, the empire does something radical, something it never fully managed in ours. It reforms at its peak. Not half measures, not cosmetic changes, a true, sweeping modernization from the inside out. The year is the late 1800s. Sultans and ministers look at Europe rising, Russia expanding, and Persia reorganizing, and they understand a simple truth: adapt or be erased. So the Ottomans choose to adapt. A new bureaucracy, a new army, a new identity. The empire launches a massive internal overhaul. Corrupt local governors are replaced. Tax systems are standardized. Education becomes centralized. Railways and telegraph lines spread across every province. The military is rebuilt with German-style structure. Industrial centers appear in Anatolia, Syria, and Egypt. For the first time in centuries, the empire becomes efficient. Not just large, functional. And unlike in our timeline, these reforms succeed because the leadership sticks with them for decades, not years. The Ottoman Empire emerges from the 19th century looking less like a medieval dynasty and more like a rising modern superstate. The key divergence. No World War I. When 1914 arrives, Europe bursts into flames. But the Ottomans, they don't take the bait, they stay out. No alliance with Germany, no Gallipoli, no Arab revolt, no partitioning of the Middle East. Instead, the empire acts like a massive geopolitical wall between Europe and Asia. A neutral giant everyone must negotiate with. And neutrality pays off. During the war, the empire becomes the shipping artery for goods, grain and oil heading east and west. Its ports boom, its treasury fills, its industries grow while Europe bleeds. When the war ends, exhausted and bankrupt nations look toward Istanbul, the capital of the empire that stayed stable, wealthy and intact. The Ottoman Empire enters the 1920s not as the sick man of Europe, but as one of the richest and most influential states on earth. A multi-ethnic modern giant, Armenians, Arabs, Greeks, Turks, Kurds, Albanians, Slavs. In this timeline, the empire invests heavily in autonomy systems, local assemblies, shared revenue, language protections, religious freedoms. It's not perfect, no empire is, but it's stable enough to hold its borders and maintain its legitimacy. By the 1930s, the empire looks more like a federation than a sultanate, and it's ready for the 20th century. By the 1930s, the Ottoman Empire is no longer the fragile relic Europe expects. It's a modernized federation stretching across Anatolia, the Levant, Arabia, and parts of the Balkans, a bridge between continents and a gatekeeper of global trade. And once again, the world prepares for a storm. World War II arrives, and the empire stays out again. When Hitler invades Poland, the great powers snap into formation. Old grudges flare, new alliances tighten, and Europe spirals into another cataclysm. But in this timeline, the Ottomans do something almost no one else can afford to do. They stay neutral. Not weakly neutral. Not afraid. Strategically neutral. Here's why it works. 1. Geography is destiny, and they control the bottleneck. The Bosporus and Dardanelles are the empire's trump cards. Every nation needs these straits. Britain, Germany, Russia. If the Ottomans join the war, they offend at least one superpower that can strike back. Neutrality isn't passive, it's survival. 2. A professional, massive army. By 1939, decades of reform have paid off. The Ottoman military is no longer a crumbling institution. It's a modern force modelled on German efficiency and British logistics. Active troops, 1.4 million. Reserves, 2.5 million. Modernized artillery corps. An elite mechanized cavalry division inherited from earlier reforms. A navy built to dominate the eastern Mediterranean. A small but growing air force equipped with French and American aircraft. Fun fact, Ottoman officers in this timeline train in Boston, London, Berlin and Paris, turning the empire into a hybrid tactical powerhouse with exposure to every doctrine. This strength alone discourages any power from forcing them into the war. Number 3. Oil. In this world, the empire holds the Arabian Peninsula. It controls the early oil fields of Iraq, the Gulf and Western Arabia, meaning both sides desperately want access, and neither can afford to anger them. Neutrality becomes profitable. 4. America steps in. Unlike WWI, the US now sees the Ottomans as a stabilizing democratic-friendly federation, a major oil supplier, a counterweight to the Soviets, an economic partner. So Washington quietly ensures military supplies keep flowing, trade routes stay open, and the empire stays stable. This deep early alignment with the United States becomes one of the most important turning points in the alternative 20th century. But could they really stay neutral? Surprisingly, yes, but barely. They face enormous pressure. Germany wants the Straits, the USSR wants Eastern Anatolia, Britain wants Middle Eastern oil, the Allies want bases, Axis wants passage, but the Ottomans offer something nobody else can, a neutral zone in a world full of fire. By offering transit restrictions, equal trade and guaranteed oil quotas to all sides, the empire becomes the Switzerland of the Middle East, only 10 times bigger and 10 times more important. The empire after World War II. When the war ends in 1945, the Ottomans emerge, untouched, wealthier, more industrialized, politically respected, and aligned with the victorious West Europe lies in ruins. Japan is devastated. The Soviet Union is bleeding. And the empire? It stands tall, one of the top 5 strongest states on Earth. 1945. The empire stands intact while Europe crawls out of the rubble of World War II. The Ottoman Empire stands largely untouched, richer, united, and sitting on the world's most valuable resource, oil. Its borders stretch from the Balkans to Arabia and from the Caucasus to Egypt, and instead of collapsing into nationalist fragments, internal autonomy keeps the peace. The world suddenly notices. The Ottomans are now one of the 5 great powers. Number 1950s. The American Partnership era. The US wants Middle Eastern stability. The Ottomans want modernization. It becomes a perfect marriage. American companies modernize Istanbul, Alexandria, and Izmir. The Ottomans supply secure, uninterrupted oil. New universities appear across the empire. A NATO-style mutual defense pact forms, but the Ottomans never formally join NATO. By 1959, their GDP has doubled. In our timeline, coups and conflicts dominate the region. Here, it's roads, factories, and rising income. Number 1960s, the golden age of infrastructure. This decade is pure acceleration. A trans-Arabian high-speed rail system connects Medina, Damascus, Istanbul. The Suez Canal is co-managed with Egypt, not fought over. Kurds, Armenians, Turks, Arabs, Greeks, and Persians coexist under federal autonomy. Tourism explodes. So does trade. By 1969, the empire's GDP matches Italy, number 1970s. The oil superpower. The oil shocks hit the West, but the Ottomans? They become the calm center of the storm. They control key oil fields. They stabilize global supply. Their sovereign wealth fund becomes one of the largest on Earth. By 1979, their GDP is approaching France. In our world, Middle Eastern states fought wars, coups, and revolutions. Here, the empire uses oil money to build a middle class. Number 1980s. The Technocratic turn. The empire invests oil wealth into telecommunications, aerospace, education, research hubs in Istanbul, Baghdad, and Alexandria. Think Singapore energy, but across 20 major cities. By 1989, they're a top 10 economy. They rival Japan in industrial output. Number 1990s. The Balkan miracle. While our timeline saw Yugoslavia collapse, this world sees Bosnia, Serbia, Croatia, Kosovo, and Albania all stabilized under Ottoman federal laws. Massive investment in rail, factories, and ports. 0 Balkan wars. By 1998, the Balkans are one of the fastest growing regions on the planet. Number 2000s. The space and tech era. The empire begins launching satellites, building rockets, and funding early AI research. Istanbul becomes the Dubai, Tokyo, Silicon Valley hybrid of this timeline. By 2008, the empire cracks the top 5 global economies. Number 2010s, the global player. Foreign policy becomes more assertive. A fleet of modern destroyers and carriers dominates the eastern Mediterranean. The empire mediates between India and Pakistan. It becomes the primary energy supplier to Europe and China. By 2019, they're the world's third largest economy, behind the US and China. Number 2020's, the modern Ottoman Superstate. Now we arrive in the present. Population 350 million. GDP $17 trillion. Military 3.5 to 4 million active plus reserve. 12 carrier groups, a nuclear program started in the 80s. World-class drones, jets, space tech. They're basically a mix of US military scale, EU economy, Gulf oil wealth, Japanese modernization, Chinese industrial ambition. They are one of the three pillars of global power. Daily life in this timeline versus our world. This is where the differences hit hardest, because when a superstate survives, ordinary life changes completely. Economy and jobs. Their timeline. Wages are higher than our Middle East average. The Balkans are wealthier than Spain. Alexandria, Tunis, Beirut and Sarajevo are megacities like Seoul or Shanghai. Massive social programs funded by oil plus industry. Our timeline. Fragmentation led to wars, sanctions, coups, stalled development, migration crises, unstable economies. The alternate world is calmer, richer, cleaner. Daily life and culture. Their world is multilingual, multi-ethnic and cosmopolitan. A typical person can wake up in Sarajevo, take a train to Istanbul in 4 hours, then fly to Alexandria or Baghdad without passports, like the EU but far bigger. Shopping malls in Mecca look like Dubai. Universities in Damascus look like Singapore. Public healthcare is massive. Education is standardized and high level. Women have strong rights due to reforms from the 1920s-70s. Minority cultures flourish under autonomy zones. Technology in homes. By 2025, most households have high-speed fiber, subsidized solar energy, low-cost electronics due to empire-wide mass production, free university education for STEM. The empire resembles a fusion of Japan, the UAE, and the EU. Geopolitics. Here's the wild part. No Iraq War, no Balkan Wars, no Syrian Civil War, no Arab Spring. Israel-Ottoman relations stabilize into a tense but functional economic partnership. Russia and the Ottomans compete peacefully over the Caucasus. China views the empire as a vital Silk Road partner. The entire Middle East and Balkans avoid a century of bloodshed. The world today, 2025, in this timeline. The Ottoman Empire is a global superpower, a tech giant, a diplomatic heavyweight, a cultural fusion zone, a stable megastate of 350 million people, one of the most powerful militaries on Earth, a top 3 economy. And the biggest shock of all, the daily lives of hundreds of millions of people are dramatically better than in our timeline. Less war, more opportunity, more stability, more prosperity. This is not a slightly improved world, it's a fundamentally different one. Thanks for spending your time exploring this alternate world with us. It's always fascinating to see how a single change, one empire surviving, can reshape an entire century. If you enjoyed this dive into a different timeline, make sure to hit the like button. And if you want more videos like this, from alternate histories to big what-if scenarios, subscribe to the channel. It really helps us grow, and it lets you catch the next episode the moment it drops. And before you go, tell me in the comments, what alternate history should we explore next? I'll be reading through them, and the best suggestions will become full episodes. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.